Welcome back to this channel. Here's the start of my official college football predictions. This first part will cover my win-loss predictions for every team and the standings for every conference. If you want to know my thought process for any of my predictions, leave a comment and I will get back to you. And without further ado, let's get started. Starting off is a new look American Athletic Conference. They had 6 teams from the Conference USA, but gone are Cincinnati, UCF, and Houston, taking their combined 8 conference championships with them. Losing a fair share of big names certainly hurts, but it opens new opportunities for teams in the conference. I would not be surprised to see any combination of defending conference champion at Tulane, defending Conference USA champion UTSA, Southern Methodist, Memphis, or Florida Atlantic in the conference championship. There's tons of unpredictability in the American Athletic, especially in the first year of a completely new look conference. Just like the American Athletic, the Conference USA will also look very different. 6 teams are gone, all to the aforementioned American Athletic Conference, but the Conference USA added 2 teams from the Independents and 2 teams from the FCS division. Unlike James Madison and the Sun Belt, I do think the transition to the FBS division will be rough for Jacksonville State and Sam Houston State, as I see both teams finishing in the bottom 2 spots in the standings. At the top of the standings, I do think there's a clear talent drop behind Liberty, WKU, and Middle Tennessee, but I wouldn't be surprised to see any of those 3 teams win the conference. Unlike the previous 2 conferences, the MAC has stayed strong and will likely never be affected by conference realignment for years to come. The conference hasn't added a team in 25 years, and despite that, it's always hard to predict this conference since year in and year out there's so much parity. However, I do think Toledo will run away with this conference and represent the Group of 5 in the New Year's Six Bowls. They return 16 starters from last season's team that won the conference championship and look to replicate that performance this season. From the MAC East, I believe Miami of Ohio will come away with that division over Ohio and Buffalo, but lose to Toledo in the conference championship game to give the Rockets their 10th win on the season. The Mountain West suffered mightily in 2022 compared to 2021. Boise State, San Diego State, and Nevada were all letdowns compared to their usual performances, as the conference went 1-16 against Power 5 teams and lost 3 games to teams in the FCS division. There are strong contenders this time around trying to regain the conference's credibility, and I see longtime conference heavyweight Boise State winning the Mountain West, but Fresno State, San Diego State, and Air Force should all give the Broncos a run for their money. I'm pretty confident in the conference championship matchup in the Sun Belt. Coastal Carolina should take advantage of an easy conference schedule and run away with the Sun Belt East division late in the season. Marshall, James Madison, and Appalachian State will battle for second place with no front-runner in sight. I do, however, project Marshall to come out on top, but I wouldn't be surprised to see either of those other 2 teams finish in second place in the Sun Belt East division. Looking over to the West, Troy should win the West division thanks to getting South Alabama at home and Louisiana's recent dominance in the conference starting to fade. I also see the Trojans defeating Coastal Carolina in the Sun Belt Championship game, giving Troy their 9th win on the season. Notre Dame should lead the Independents once again, but there are places where the Fighting Irish could slip, including home games against Ohio State, USC, a season opener overseas in Dublin, and road games to NC State, who has won 16 out of 17 at home, and the mighty Clemson Tigers. Army and Connecticut should both challenge for bowl spots once again. I see Army getting there and UConn coming a game short. However, UConn made a bowl last season, so maybe they can replicate that performance in 2023, and Massachusetts will once again be stuck in the cellar, and I have them finishing with the nation's worst record at 1-11. The ACC loses divisions for the first time since 2004. This should bode well for Florida State, as ever since they faded in the mid-2010s, the road to the ACC championship in the Atlantic Division ran through Death Valley and Clemson. However, I do like Dabo Swinney emerging from the Florida State hype and reinstating Clemson as a big dog in the ACC after 2 frustrating seasons. Florida State has not beaten Clemson since 2014, and I think that trend will continue. There's a chance the Florida State hype will resemble what happened to NC State last season. And speaking of NC State, they lost their starter quarterback, Devin Leary, to the transfer portal, a big reason for their hype in 2022, but they do gain Virginia transfer Brennan Armstrong, who should be solid at quarterback. NC State might surprise thanks to a favorable home schedule. Looking at teams in the former Coastal Division, there has never been consistency in that division, as there has never been a repeat Coastal Division winner since Virginia Tech in 2011, and I think it will be especially clear in 2023 who the dominant division was during the past 20 years. If Clemson or Florida State were to stumble, I think a team from North Carolina, be it NC State, North Carolina, or Duke, will be perfectly capable of surprising in 2023 and making the ACC championship game. This will be the last year of divisions in the Big Ten, and just like the ACC, there has clearly been a dominant division in the Big Ten. For so long, the term the Big Four has run throughout the conference, consisting of Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan State. Those four teams are the only teams to even win the conference since the East-West Division realignment in 2014. Starting off with Michigan State, the Spartans won 11 games in 2021, but they've lost so much production over the past 2 years, including their top quarterback and their top receiver in this year's transfer portal. So my hot take is that I think they might struggle this season. However, the other three teams are still going strong. Michigan should dominate behind a slew of returning talent. Ohio State will remain a big name trying to catch up to Michigan. And Penn State, although in the shadow of Michigan and Ohio State, appears to be a favorite for one of the New Year's Six Bowls. However, the Nittany Lions only have a 3-9 record against Ohio State and Michigan since 2017, something they need to change if they really want to establish themselves as the perennial threat in the Big Ten. The Big Ten West teams will struggle in 2024 when the Big Ten does away with divisions, but with no clear frontrunner in 2023, any team can make one last push in their last realistic chance at a Big Ten championship game appearance for many years to come. For me, I see a transfer Tanner Mordecai and stud Braylon Allen leading Wisconsin back to the Big Ten championship game for the first time since 2019, but losing to Michigan in that game, giving the Wolverines their 12th win of the season in a college football playoff appearance. The Big 12 adds 4 teams to raise their team count to 14 before losing college football blue bloods in Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC in 2024. I would not be surprised to see both of those two teams make the conference championship in their last season in the conference. That certainly wouldn't be a good look for the conference, as they would lose so much credibility after Texas and Oklahoma depart. Defending conference champion Kansas State and the TCU team that won 13 games in 2022 and a national championship game appearance, both of those teams will be there to try and ruin the party. Also look out for Texas Tech, a heavy dark horse in the conference, similar to what Kansas State was in 2022. With all of the top heavy talent in the conference, I do think it will be hard for UCF, BYU, Houston, and Cincinnati, the 4 conference newcomers, to fit into the conference. Although there are cases for all 4 teams to make a bowl in 2023 if the cards play in their favor, transitioning to a Power 5 schedule is always difficult. Looking down the conference, Mike Gundy had his roster decimated with more than half a dozen starters transferring out, spelling bad news for Oklahoma State, and arguably no head coaching seat is hotter in the nation than Neil Brown's seat is at West Virginia as he fights to keep his job and return the Mountaineers to a bowl game. The Pac-12 will be very competitive in 2023. Any combination of Washington, USC, Oregon, Utah, and Oregon State could make the conference championship, and I would not be surprised. All 5 teams won 10 or more games last season, finishing ranked 17th or above, so it will be very difficult for 2-time defending conference champions, the Utah Utes, to successfully defend their conference title for the 3rd year in a row, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. Oregon made the conference championship game in 3 straight years, from 2019 through 2021, and won the title in 2020. The Ducks were on track to make a conference championship game last season before a loss in the final week of the regular season in the annual Civil War game against Oregon State. Both the teams in Oregon missed out on the Pac-12 championship game in 2022, but both are in contention this season. USC returns 2022 Heisman winner quarterback Caleb Williams. However, I see Washington winning the conference behind a slew of returning starters on offense, including arguably the best receiving core in the entire nation. All 5 of the top teams in the Pac-12 have studs at quarterback: Williams for USC, Washington's Michael Penix Jr., Oregon's Bo Nix, Utah's Cameron Rising, and Oregon State's DJ Uiagalelei, a transfer from Clemson. UCLA and Washington State appear to be locked in for 6th and 7th in the standings respectively, and behind Washington State are 5 teams all trying to compete for a bowl game. Maybe the most notable of the bunch might be Colorado, the worst Power 5 team last season, but have acquired a new head coach, Deion Sanders, otherwise known as Coach Prime. Despite playing 11 Power 5 teams this season, there's optimism in Boulder for a fresh start in 2023, and a bright future for Colorado for many years to come. Standing-wise, the SEC should look very similar as it did in 2022 before the arrival of Texas and Oklahoma next season. Georgia is trying to go for the trifecta, 3 national championships in a row, 13 times in the past has the college football world seen back-to-back champions, but never has a team three-peated. Georgia is trying to be the first, but no team will make a three-peat easy in 2023. LSU will once again be a stud behind quarterback Jaden Daniels, and Nick Saban will be hungry for a playoff bid after missing out in 2022. I do see Tennessee regressing a bit after losing quarterback Hendon Hooker and multiple receivers, and I also see their lackluster pass defense finally catching up to them. But I think there's enough there for Tennessee to finish in the top 5 of the conference, in my case coming in at 4th place. Behind those top 4 teams are a slew of 7 to 8 win teams, all looking to make a splash before the SEC drops divisions next season. Kentucky brings in NC State star Devin Leary to replace quarterback Will Levis, and they also rehired its offensive coordinator. South Carolina returns quarterback Spencer Rattler, who helped the Gamecocks torch Tennessee and ruin their college football playoff hopes a season ago. KJ Jefferson from Arkansas is one of the top quarterbacks in the SEC, but the Razorbacks defense took a huge step back in 2022, something they are still addressing for 2023. Perhaps the biggest letdown in my predictions might be Florida, who lost star quarterback Anthony Richardson to the NFL draft, its top offensive lineman, and its top linebacker. Nonetheless, expect a big amount of bowl-eligible teams from the SEC as per usual. And that'll wrap up this video on my win-loss predictions for every team and the standings outlook for every conference. The next parts will feature my top 25 rankings, bowl projections, top regular season games, All-American predictions, all that jazz. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the rest of my predictions. Again, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What are your predictions? I'd love to know that. And thanks for watching.